Welcome back everybody, this is a pickups video for everything I picked up in the month of April, January, February, March, April, yep it's April. So this is all the titles. I was doing so well at the start of April, I had picked up next to nothing, maybe like 5 or 10 titles, and then all the sales hit towards sort of like the middle. And I went a bit nuts, so got a few more titles than I planned. There seems to be the moral of every story every time I do one of these, but high hopes for next month, or what it's going to be this month by the time this video almost goes out, I suppose. Hopefully May time will be a smaller video. I think I say this in every video, but without further ado, let's crack on with what I picked up in April. Okay, so the first batch of movies I'm going to show here are basically what I started off picking up at the start of the month. I was in CEX, picked up a couple of titles. You know how it is, you've got a bit of credit sitting there, burning a hole in your pocket, and you just think, I'm going to pick up a title or two that has tempted me. So this one was a completely unnecessary purchase because I already had the film. However, the limited edition box set caught me unawares, and for £15 I'm pretty sure this goes for much more than this online. It's a movie I saw at a horror festival many years ago, or a few years ago now, and surprisingly really enjoyed. It's a 1957 movie, so my older movies aren't normally my main go-to type of film, but considering the age, I had a really good time with this at a horror convention, or a horror festival. So I picked it up on Blu-ray after watching it there because I enjoyed it that much. But when I saw the special edition, I thought, gonna have to pick that up. That is Night of the Demon. This has got the booklet and all the fancy gubbins inside there. £15, obviously from CEX, as you can see. So that was kind of like I had to get that as a bargain. Numbers down the bottom there if anyone's interested. But couldn't leave that on the shelf, £15, considering that the sort of single disc edition basically trades in for £10 or £12 sometimes anyway, so I get most of the money back in vouchers. So that was the first thing I picked up. Really good black and white kind of movie from 1950s. Like I say, not normally my era, but here's one I did enjoy. So what else was I doing? So in CEX, got these in the wrong order, bear with me. So another one I picked up in CEX because I'd heard good things about it. I'd never seen it before. I have watched it since. So this is a movie that I had seen around a few times, like on people's videos recommended it. I'd never seen it before. And it's a comedy from 1995, and it's a movie called Friday. So I enjoyed this movie. I thought this was really fun. I'd heard that it was basically a video where these two fellas basically hang out on a porch for most of the film, and that was kind of the premise, but funny things happen around them. That's kind of what it was, but it was funny. I really enjoyed it. Semi hard to get, I'd say, this one, so £8 was quite a reasonable price for the sort of rarity of it seems. Apparently director's cut. I haven't seen a theatrical cut if that's the case. I've only seen this version, but I enjoyed this. Quite a funny comedy from the 90s that I'd never seen, so worth picking up for £8. Do you know what? I think that was it. I think that was all my CEX pickups. I think I did really well. I think I picked up 2. However, it doesn't mean I didn't buy anything for anyone else, sadly. I did go them nuts everywhere else. So let's go on to when I was up the town. I basically then went over to HMV and I picked up a couple of titles on 4K, which I'd been looking out for a little while. So this one was doing the rounds everywhere quite a while back, and I couldn't remember if I'd seen it or not. It might have been one of those ones that I'd seen so many years ago I couldn't remember. But that is Kurt Russell in Breakdown. So I picked up on a 4K. Didn't have a UK Blu-ray to my knowledge beforehand. It does come with the Blu-ray inside the 4K, which I always appreciate. Which just means I can watch it anywhere in the house or out in the sort of cinema I've got in a garage there. So I really enjoyed this one. I think I'd seen bits, I think I'd seen clips of this, that's why I was getting confused whether I'd seen it or not, because I do remember little bits of this, but I don't remember the whole thing. But really good sort of thriller, where obviously everyone knows, I'm sure by now, but Kurt Russell and his wife are driving along and the car breaks down, and he has to then decide what to do. This sort of like guy in a truck pulls up and offers to take them to a local cafe so they can get some help. His wife ends up going with the guy while he stays with his car, and then when he finally catches up to the cafe, his wife's not there. So that's the quick premise of that film if anyone hasn't seen it. But really worth watching. Glad I picked it up on the 2 for £30 deal in HMV. And let's crack on with the next one I picked up on that offer. So the other one I picked up on that offer, it is one I had on an import, but it was just nagging me that it was an import version. I know there's nothing wrong with an import version, but the cover was all out, in terms of language, and I like the artwork on this one a bit better. And I needed something to go with this 2 for £30 deal, and that is Eva Green in The Dreamers. So yeah, I had this on DVD way back, and I used to enjoy this one when I was sort of like growing up. I remember seeing this one as sort of like a young teenage boy, I guess. Pretty good. I haven't did I rewatch this one? I haven't rewatched it since I picked it up, but I did fairly recently watch the import Blu-ray that I picked up a while back. So, you know, it doesn't need a rewatch straight away, but I'm glad to pick it up because, again, it didn't have a UK Blu-ray. It does come with a Blu-ray inside the 4K package. Let's see if I can give you a little bit of blurb on this one. So this is set against the backdrop of 1968 Paris, where student riots experience the unforgettable love letter to cinema in the French New Wave like never before, starring Michael Pitts, Louis Garrel, not sure who that is, and Eva Green. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. It's basically about three youngsters that are kind of like, you know, students. They end up getting together, and they've got this like the sort of brother and sister, I think they are. They've got this sort of like house where their parents aren't really living in, or they are, but they go away quite a lot. So they've got the kind of free reign, and yeah, it's this weird like love triangle between this brother, sister, and this like kid who's coming into this sort of like situation as well. Yeah, weird, sort of a weird, odd kind of tale, but it's something about it. It's really sort of like, it does draw you in. It does sort of keep me entertained for the full time. So yeah, I would recommend if you like those sort of like slightly odd dramas with a bit of a sort of sexual theme throughout. Probably worth picking that one up. It's pretty decent, I would think. Also in HMV, another one that I had the opportunity of picking up the 4K, I think, but for these type of films I like to blow them up big on my projectors, and my projectors don't do 4K, so I figured I'm just going to save a bit of money and just pick up the Blu-ray because that's good enough for what I need for this. And that is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies. So yeah, this was a tenner I think in HMV, so I thought instead of, I think it worked out £15, you can pick up the 4K, and it's only £5 or more, but I just don't have the use for a 4K yet to that sort of size. I'd want to watch this film. So yeah, I did rewatch this because I haven't seen it in years. Really good action film. I'm sure everyone knows about this one as well. But yeah, Arnie in True Lies. Lots of like, you know, practical effects. Lots of like models being smashed up there. Not that you can kind of tell, but if you look hard enough, you can. James Cameron movie, obviously looks really nice. I like the transfer on this. So yeah, looks really nice and clean, like it was, you know, like people say, shot yesterday. But yeah, really enjoyed that one on a rewatch. So yeah, picked up from HMV for $9.99. This was a movie that Ollie from Ollie Loves Movies basically shouted me out, and I think Sammy G, and said if you two guys are going to love this film, like I guarantee it. So you know, with those words in mind, I had to pull the trigger and get hold of this one, and that is a Miles Teller film called The Spectacular Now. So yeah, I had a really good time with this one. Ollie wasn't wrong, you know, me, Sammy and Ollie have got similar tastes, kind of thread running through that. It's not going to be for everyone, but yeah, for us three, it pretty much ticks the boxes. I think Sammy said he had a pretty good time with this one as well. I think we actually watched it on the same day, and I think we give it the same score on Letterboxd in the end as well. So, you know, similar minds and all that. But yeah, this basically is a story where this sort of young couple, almost a coming of age type story really, I suppose, where this young couple kind of like bump into each other, kind of like start hanging out, start dating a bit, and it's kind of based quite heavily in alcoholism, so you know, I don't want to spoil anything. So, you know, Miles Teller is basically, he likes a drink. Most teenagers do. That's kind of like a rite of passage for most teenagers. So he kind of like rears his head quite early in the film. You don't necessarily think too much of it, but then as the film goes on, you get more and more kind of like suspicious if this is actually kind of like, you know, leading to a plot in the story. And, you know, mild spoiler, it does kind of lead to pretty much the main plot line throughout the film. I won't go into how and why and all that business, but if you like these sort of like dramas where there's sort of like a romantic element, I know not for everyone. I know my good friend Marcus, no thank you, so he's probably not going to be one for him, but you know, me, Sammy and Ollie have got that sort of like passion for these type of films, so yep, that's one I'd quite happily recommend anyone check out. Now I was at HMV, and you know, that sale they had on was just I think I hit it twice on the website. I was away on holiday basically, and I ended up hitting it twice on holiday, and so when I got home there was this massive stash of like parcels waiting for me, which is nice, but you know, it was a bit unnecessary, and I even then had a spare day kicking about with nothing to do, so I ended up going into a town where there was an HMV and picking up stuff off the shelf as well. Again, did have a big pile, but ended up putting some of it back, so quite pleased with that. I did cave in though for £3.49 with a slip and picked up Black Adam. I hadn't seen this one. I don't mind The Rock, quite like these big blockbuster movies. Obviously everyone's in a similar boat with the whole superhero fatigue thing. This does suffer from it. It was okay. It's a one and done. It's not going to be kept, I don't think. I mean, there's probably, for £3.49, you know, for a price of a coffee, it doesn't really matter. It would cost me more than that to rent it. So, you know, I don't regret picking it up necessarily. But with this one, all I could think of was every character in here. Now, I'm not a big DC guy, not massive on Marvel either, probably more so on Marvel based on the films. But all I could think of was every character they introduced here, I could just basically flip them into a Marvel version. So you've got Pierce Brosnan here, who basically plays the equivalent of Doctor Strange for my kind of like mindset. A guy who can kind of like, you know, manipulate people's visions of what's going on, duplicate himself to fight enemies. You've got The Rock, who's kind of like a you know, an invincible kind of superhero in terms of, like, a bit like a Superman for DC, I suppose. But yeah, if you want to see The Rock basically just kind of like, you know, get pulled around on harnesses for about an hour and a half, just very slowly across the screen, that's about all this offers, really. Now, a controversial film that I actually wasn't sure of when I first watched it on streaming when it came out. Has a lot of controversy about it behind the scenes, but, you know, I try not to get involved in all that stuff. I'd rather just concentrate on the film itself. And the more it sat with me, the more, don't kill me for this, but the more it sat with me, the more I think I will go back to this film. And that is The Flash. So yeah, I picked up The Flash. Obviously this was off the website when I picked up an order off the website. I can't remember how much this was. I think this was like £4 or something like that. So again, for the price of coffee, picked up the Flash movie. It's got some terrible CGI in here. It's got, you know, the babies of all things, if you know, you know. But there's enough in it for me to probably throw this on with a beer, you know, throw it on a projector and just have a really good time with it. So yeah, picked it up because I will go back to that, especially for that money. Now this one was a bit of, what else did I pick up here? Oh no, sorry, the HMV sale. I also picked up a movie that again I saw more recently at a horror festival that I went to, and I really enjoyed this film. I know it's mostly enjoyed by a lot of people. You have to go in expecting kind of very low budget. It's kind of like made on a very tight budget, but what they do with that budget I really appreciated and really enjoyed, and that is The Last Video Store. So yeah, this had like loads of reviews by now. I'm a bit late to the party in showing this one off, but I was waiting for a little price drop on it because I had seen it at the festival not long ago, so I didn't need a rewatch straight away. But yeah, released on the Arrow label. If you don't know already, I'll quickly tell you what it's about. You've basically got this guy who owns a video store. I think this made my top 10 movies of 2024 or top 10 first watches of 2024, something like that, I don't know. But yeah, but you might have heard me talk about it before, but he owns a video store. This girl goes to basically return a tape that her relative who's passed away has still got, and then the tape basically gets put into this like rewind machine and in the store, and all of a sudden all the kind of like other characters that are in these tapes that are being rewound start coming out of the machine and entering the video store. So you've got throwbacks to your kind of like, you know, Jason's, for example, your generic action hero. All these kind of one by one start coming on, and it creates scenarios for these two characters to deal with. I really enjoyed it. I will go back to it. I did hear from another YouTuber's video, I can't remember who it was now I was watching, that this contains some short movies that the guys have done as well, so I'm really intrigued to check those out. I lied, there was more CX. So I picked up Beetlejuice, £8. I know it's only a tenner on Amazon most of the time, but again with vouchers it was kind of like free money. But yeah, really enjoyed this one, the sequel to Beetlejuice. If you haven't seen it, I would say check it out. I'm quite a big fan of the first one, I would say. I used to watch it a lot as a kid. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out and you're kind of on the fence, you know, if you'd like it or not, I'd say it's definitely worth a go. But yeah, Beetlejuice, won't spend too much time on that one. Speak No Evil, I did pick this one up, so again I watched this one on streaming. I had a good time with this one. I know it's got some controversial kind of opinions on it, just like some people obviously think that everything in here you'd never do in real life. True, but then, you know, you'd say that about almost any film because that's why they're films, that's why they're made, to you know, do something different to what you probably do in real life to give you a different result. So, you know, Speak No Evil, enjoyed this one. James McAvoy does an amazing job at kind of like creeping you out and putting you on edge for the entire film, creating all these awkward situations between this family who go and stay with them in this sort of like country place, country house sort of thing. So yeah, as they're kind of like, they're going around staying with them, with their kids sort of playing together, the son of the son of James McAvoy, basically, and his wife. He can't speak, hence the Speak No Evil kind of title. But this little girl from the other family who go to stay with them, she can speak, and she's like, you know, hanging out with this kid and stuff. Lots of creepy scenes, lots of kind of like really socially awkward moments, which just like make for interesting watching as far as I'm concerned. Yes, the characters do stupid things and make the wrong decisions, but like I say, it doesn't bother me too much. I really enjoyed the whole film as a whole. So I'd highly recommend that one. Okay, so next one I picked up was The Heretic. Again, another one that's pretty much a new horror that I think most people have enjoyed. There's obviously going to be someone out there that hasn't, but I thought this was really good. As everyone says, Hugh Grant is amazing in this role as the creepy guy. So again, briefly, two girls who are kind of trying to spread the word of God basically go to his house, knocking on the door because he's booked an appointment. He wants to hear more about their religion. And then again, awkwardness just ensues from the start when they get into the thing, where into his house, where they need to have a lady present basically, and part of their kind of like religion slash kind of like what's the word I'm searching for? The rules basically. So if they go and visit someone's house, they need to have like a lady present whilst they're in the house with this fella who seemingly is on his own at this point. He, you know, promises them that his wife's just baking in the kitchen and stuff and out of sight, but she's there. They can smell all this kind of like, you know, baking going on, so he's not necessarily too hard to believe. And then it just cranks the dial right up to 11 on the old creep factor as he starts talking to them more and more, and they realise they can't escape. I won't say much more than that in case anyone hasn't seen it, but I would highly recommend that one as well if you like your creepy kind of like horror thriller styles. Reminded me a little bit of Martyrs. So if you're a fan of, not the remake, that was awful, but like the original Martyrs, if you're a fan of that one, I would say there is a slight, you know, link between these two, especially as it gets towards the end. So another one I picked up was, now this was maybe one of my favourite watches of the month so far. I'd never seen it before. It's a complete sort of a blind buy. I don't like that term too much, but you know, I'd researched it a little bit. But this is Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger and Michael Madsen and James Woods in The Getaway. Now I understand this is a remake. I do not believe I've seen the original one. This is a 90s, I want to say, movie. If you like action movies, I threw this on the projector in the garage I've got out the back there, and yeah, an amazing time. I was blown away by this movie. I don't think it reviews massively well. I think it sort of reviews quite averagely. But for me, it had absolutely everything that I wanted from this film. So there was action, there was, you know, big explosions, gasoline being thrown up in the air, again, practical effects all the way through it. There was gun shootouts, there was car chases. Yeah, really enjoyed this movie. I had the best time with this, watching this probably this month. One of the best watches I've had. Sort of loose premise, if like me you've never really seen this movie or heard too much about it. You've got these two characters here who are kind of on the run. So basically they're doing a job very early on, so mild spoilers. He's doing a job. He ends up getting double crossed and he ends up getting put in jail. His wife then basically has to find a way of getting him out of jail by going to this sort of like bigger crime lord to see if he can kind of basically get him out of jail through other channels other than official ones, to which he agrees to do for a price. I won't tell you what that price was or is, which then lingers at the back of the film as the film goes on. You know, what was the price of getting him out of jail between these two? So there's sort of like this trust issue going on for the rest of the film, and they're basically on the run from a certain point, and it's like a, you know, a bit of a road movie where they're being chased down by these big bad guys who are just trying to get hold of them. Michael Madsen, geez, I think this is probably my favourite performance by Michael Madsen. I know he's done some great performances in the past, but yeah, for me, I think this might be my favourite role by him. So yeah, that is The Getaway. Now this one is another horror that I think originally was a Netflix thing, or definitely got like locked into Netflix quite early, and I watched it on there, really enjoyed it. Heard Second Sight were bringing out a release of this one. Tempted to pull the trigger quite early, but again, I'd seen it fairly recently, so I waited for a little price drop, and that is the movie Creep. So again, as everyone has to say now, sadly it's not the Underground movie, which done by Christopher Smith. This is the one where this guy basically invites a videographer into his home to try and record him. He bakes up this story or this ad in a paper basically that he wants someone to record him just doing everyday things, all to do with his son. Won't go into it too far. But yeah, really good. Again, another kind of like, if you like, there's a theme here with this month. I've gone with just creepy fellas, like just creepy fellas. So yeah, a bit like Heretic and the other one. Basically, this has got a guy in it, he's just a little bit creepy, and then he cranks up the creepiness all the way through the film to you just like, what is going on here? Well, this poor fella's just videoing everything he does, thinking, what have I got myself into? I need to leave. But yeah, check that out if you like these kind of like creepy horror thrillers. Definitely worth your time. Now, I had to pick this one up, and this was a day one purchase, and I did go for the 4K. I paid the full whack for this one to show my full support of how much I enjoyed this movie and how much I will go back to this movie and what I think the makers of this movie deserve, which is the full kind of like, you know, $24.99 from me, and that is The Substance. So yeah, it did hover over the Blu-ray because, like I said earlier, I can't play the 4K discs on a big sort of like projector screen, but I can play it on the TV behind me, for example, and downstairs. My favourite movie of last year, without question. Demi Moore, as everyone says, fantastic performance. If you haven't heard about this by now, you've been under a rock, so I won't spend too much time on it. But yeah, my favourite movie of last year, had to pick it up day one. $24.99 from HMV, not a problem whatsoever. So I picked up another movie. So I found this on, I want to say it's World of Books on eBay, and this, I watched it again on streaming, checked it out to see if I'd like it. I thought it was reasonably good. I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought for £5, which I think this roughly was, by a few pennies, I thought it was going to get a used copy for £5 off World of Books, obviously, but this turned up, Alien Romulus, really nice slipcover on it, and it was still sealed. So yeah, I thought that is an absolute bargain. Did enjoy a lot of aspects of this one. There was a lot of aspects that, you know, were not necessarily my favourite things. I won't go into spoilers. But yeah, for £5, definitely sticking this into the sort of like Alien collection there, because I will go back to it at some point. Now, this was a sort of hard gamble, to be honest with you. I've seen this thing floating around online and in the internet for a while, on and off, but I've never really looked too hard into it and pulled the trigger. But I saw it come up on a deals app that I have on my phone, Blu-ray.com, so I think it is, something like that. And it showed that Amazon were doing this 88 films release of CJ7 for, I think it was about £5 to £6, somewhere around there. And I thought, for £5 to £6 for an 88 films release, didn't know if it was going to have a slip, obviously, but luckily if it did. CJ7. Now, I watched this one, I'm a dad, and I watched this one with my kid, and do you know what? It's a PG movie, but for a PG movie, it's foreign language as well. So obviously, because I was with my kid, I had to basically turn on the dubbed because they couldn't read the subtitles quick enough to be able to understand what was going on. So it was a little bit odd having the dub on there, but it didn't really take too much away from the film. This basically follows these two chaps here, so father and son, who are very poor. The son kind of gets picked on at school by the other kids who have got like all these high-tech gadgets and gizmos and sort of like all the finer things in life, where this kid's struggling to like find food, you know, and his dad's an honest, hard-working man. He just can't get enough money together to, you know, give his son everything he ever wants. And then one day they basically have this sort of like creature or this egg thing turn up. It comes down from, I think it comes out of space. I lose track of where it came from, to be honest. But yeah, this thing comes along and the kid finds it, takes it back, and then as it hatches out, this little creature comes out. It's a little bit like a Pokemon style creature. It reminded me a little bit of Flubber at one point. So if you know the movie Flubber with Robin Williams, Pokemon, if you blend those things together with a kind of like foreign movie twist, it doesn't sound amazing. They had some really hilariously funny scenes in there. I was laughing out loud multiple times, and so was my young one. So, you know, if you've got young kids yourself and you like these kind of like, or you've been on the fence for this one, I think you can still pick it up for £5 or £6. And it is CJ7. So yeah, this kid basically, as you can imagine, this kid sort of takes this little creature to heart and kind of looks after him. All the cool kids at school can't get one, obviously, because they're not something you can buy. And this little creature thing has sort of mystical powers or magic powers that it uses on certain things, which all the other kids are amazed by. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much more than that for you. So if you sound interested in that one, pick up CJ7, I recommend it. Okay, so the next one. Now, this probably was the biggest surprise for me in terms of how much I enjoyed it versus what I thought I was going to enjoy from it going in. Checked it out on streaming. I said to my mate, I texted my mate and said, look, I'm checking this one out tonight. Wish me luck. Don't hold much hope. And I'll be honest, I watched that film and it was just over 2 hours long, I want to say. And by the time I got to the end of it, I messaged him back and said, I think it's really good. I think it's great. It's better, man. I didn't understand. I didn't understand how or why I enjoyed it so much. But I'll be honest, I was, you know, humming the songs from this. This movie obviously is about Robbie Williams, not Robin Williams, Robbie Williams, the singer in the UK, who a lot of people in the UK would know, obviously, but maybe not elsewhere. Yeah, I'm not a big Robbie Williams fan, as I think most people who have seen this and enjoyed it would say, or take that. They've just always been there in the background of me growing up through the sort of like 90s and sort of into the 2000s. So I've known about them, but I've never had an interest in them. That doesn't seem to matter. This is just a standalone good movie about a sort of like, you know, rags to riches style story that happens to be based on a true story. The monkey, the ape thing doesn't faze me whatsoever. As everyone says, you just accept it and get used to it after about 5 or 10 minutes. Now, I've heard a few interviews and I've heard mixed things about why they used a monkey. Apparently at one point Robbie was saying that he just felt like a performing monkey through his life, hence why the monkey came out. Apparently there was another story that they needed a hook. Basically, they're going to do a biopic, but there's so many biopics around, they just wanted to basically use something unique to be able to draw people in, to catch people's eye, and that sure does the job. This has got like lots of emotion, lots of tension, lots of drama, lots of laugh out loud moments. I think that where this film had me was when Robbie was doing a voiceover and he was describing when they first met the other members of Take That. And I think the line that got me, and I realised I was going to enjoy this movie, was when he was describing Gary Barlow. And his line was something along the lines of, "Gary has the voice of an angel, but he dances like a twat." So that had me. I was laughing out loud, and by that point the rest of the movie was just absolutely fantastic. I listened to the soundtrack on this like regularly, and I'm not a Robbie Williams fan, but that's all the songs are, so take that what you like. So what else did I pick up? So I found this one in a charity shop for I think £1. A movie I'd seen on DVD many years ago. Thought it was pretty good, but it's one of those ones that if you ask me anything about it now I couldn't tell you. This one's an Andrew Garfield movie. I think it's got a sci-fi twist on it, a bit of a sort of romantic movie, but with a sci-fi twist, which I don't mind at all. And that is Never Let Me Go. Lovely slip on there. Looks sort of like unused. But yeah, Never Let Me Go. As I say, I genuinely can't remember too much about this one. I just remembered it was fairly decent when I watched it, and for £1, it was one of those ones that was sitting on my eBay watch list for about £5. So yeah, I was over the moon to find it for £1 in a charity shop. Let's have a look if I can find out what this is. So best friends who grew up together in an English boarding school with a chilling secret. When they learn the shocking truth that they are genetically engineered clones raised to be organ donors, they embrace their fleeting chance to live and love. So there we go. So there's a little bit of a sci-fi twist on that one. Yep, remember it being good. Want to rewatch it pretty soon. And another one of these movies that I had on DVD when I was young. Really enjoyed it, and I think because I was quite young watching this movie introduced me to certain things, and certain things that have just stuck with me, and probably shaped a little bit of my taste in film in general. So I got quite a lot to owe for this movie. Now this movie, I would say it's not an amazing movie, but it definitely is worth your time if you like 90s kind of 90s thriller, gangster thrillers, I suppose is the nearest thing you get to this. So that is a movie called Brother. Now this has only just come out on a BFI label. I couldn't believe that the BFI had released this one, because I had a hankering to rewatch this one quite recently, and then all of a sudden it was just suggested on my Amazon feed to pre-order, so I definitely pre-ordered this one. So yeah, I don't know much about the guys' names in this one, so I do apologise if anyone's more of a fan and understands all the names, but essentially your main character here, he's just a guy who, I think he's in Japan at the time. He's like a sort of like bodyguard slash, gangster protector. Anyway, he does a good job. He's someone you don't mess with, and he ends up having this situation with his boss in Japan where things go pear-shaped, much to, he saves his boss, and then, this isn't a spoiler, this happens in the first 5-10 minutes to set up the film. Things go pear-shaped with his boss. His boss ends up getting killed off by a rival gang. So basically the guys who are all kind of like surrounding the boss at the time, they regroup and essentially say his protector needs to be killed because he failed at his job. Now he couldn't have done much more than what he did do, so it's a bit of an unfair thing. The guy who comes to basically kill him off is a very close friend of him, and basically gives him an out. He says, look, I'll tell him that I killed you off, just go, just like we'll make up, we'll get a body, we'll get like some randomer, we'll make it seem like you've been killed off, you just need to run, go hide somewhere, just don't come back. So he ends up going to America So he turns up into America. This is all in the first sort of opening part of the movie, to go and meet sort of like a brother of his that he's in America with. So this guy here, I believe. Now his brother in America is sort of a very low level kind of drug dealer kind of guy. And he sort of like mixes in with the wrong crowd, and all of a sudden, you know, his bigger brother turns up and doesn't speak really a lick of English, so it's mixed between American or, you know, English language and subtitles going backwards and forwards. Again, it doesn't really bother me, but some people might be bothered. But yeah, this guy basically just one of these kind of cool guys that doesn't say anything really a lot of the time, and when these sort of like tough drug dealers sort of like try to give him any aggro whatsoever, he takes him out. And there are some some violent scenes in this one. There's quite a few scenes where the camera cuts away. Now I think this is all to do with budget. I'd imagine this doesn't have the biggest budget, because every sort of like scene where there's a big something going on, it is sort of like all mostly audio, so you hear what's going on, but the camera kind of like finds something fairly interesting to film while they're doing that, and then cuts back to the aftermath of what's happened. So I'd imagine it's done on sort of budgetary constraints. It reminded me a little bit of like Reservoir Dogs, I suppose, in that sense. So, you know, Tarantino probably didn't have the biggest budget for his first film there, so he did what he could with what he had, and look at how that turned out. So yeah, if you like that type of film, I'd recommend going for Brother, or at least looking into it, because it's one I really enjoy. There might be some nostalgia attached to that, so beware. But yeah, I really enjoyed Brother, and I'd say it's definitely worth picking up. Okay, so that is everything I picked up that I watched. I will quickly skim through the other titles I picked up. I can't tell you too much about these ones because these are all ones I haven't seen as yet. So if I flick through these really quickly, basically this one I picked up purely because WWE has come to Netflix in the UK. So obviously before that you had to pay for, I think, a subscription through them or like pay-per-view. I don't really know, I didn't do it. Now, I used to grow up with the wrestling in the very late 80s, early 90s when I was a young kid. Used to love it back then when Macho Man Randy Savage was about, Hulk Hogan, all that sort of jazz, Jake the Snake. And then I sort of like lost interest until my sort of like teen years when the Attitude Era was around, and then you had The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all those guys. And a few times I've tried to dip back into it, but the storylines are so vast and different now, I just can't get back into it. But I did dabble a little bit on Netflix the other day to try and watch anything. But every episode's like 4 hours long, and I just think I never get 4 hours to do anything. So to watch a wrestling match now is just unheard of. But it did get me thinking. If there's any Blu-rays out there, I think due to my age and my history with wrestling, I would probably find more of a documentary style more interesting and more engaging than a current storyline that I'm just not going to continue watching. And I found this, which was only about £3 online, which is 50 years history of WWE. So I think this one's about 7 or 8 hours. Obviously I can do that in chunks, but yeah, I think this one is going to be a pretty good watch for me, because it will go back over the full 50 years. It will kind of like, highlight a lot of stuff that I do know about already and enjoy remembering. So yeah, if you're into wrestling like me, but you're in a similar boat, maybe worth picking up something like this, I think, because that could be a good watch. This one is one I have seen many, many years ago as a teen, and I picked this up, I think Music Magpie or someone like that on eBay for about £5, which is amazing because it was on my list to import in from America, no UK Blu-ray, for about £15 to £20, so to get it for a £5 was amazing. And that is Beer Fest. Again, it's one of these ones, seen it, can't tell you much about it now though, it's been so long ago. I think these lads basically go to this German beer festival, I want to say, at best guess. Hilarity ensues, obviously one of those early 2000s kind of comedies. But I want to check it out again soon. Next one, this one was on sale, I think $6.99. I haven't seen it yet, so I wanted to pick it up for the old garage cinema, and that is Mad Max Furiosa. So yeah, I haven't seen it, but this one I'm waiting to put up on a big screen because I think like this one should do really well being blown up to like the 100-inch mark. Next one I picked up was a 88 Films movie called Mortuary. I just haven't had the chance to get to this one yet. I did also pick up Dark Knight of the Scarecrow because that was doing the rounds. I thought Dark Knight of the Scarecrow was good, I just don't think I'll ever go back to it, so that has been put into my to sell pile. This one I picked up alongside it, but I haven't watched it yet, as I say, but I will get to it at some point because I do like these kind of low budget 80s slashers that they put out. The other one I picked up from 88 Films was Castaway. Again, I know a few people have picked this one up. Now, I love a deserted island type of movie. I don't know what it is about it. There's just something about a deserted island type of movie that just ticks the boxes for me. And I think this is basically where this is aimed at. So yeah, I really want to check this one out. Again, another one for the old garage cinema. I just want to sit there in the summertime where it's nice and hot, stick this on the big screen and lay in my hammock and enjoy. So 88 Films, I think they emailed me and said there's 40% off when you spend £40, I want to say. So I got those 3 movies that I mentioned there, and that ticked it just over £40, and they took 40% off, so I don't know what I paid, but it was less than the RRPs, which I was happy about. This one I picked up because I'd never seen it before. It piqued my interest, and yeah, I wanted to see what Roy Schneider was like in 52 Pickup. I've heard it's quite a good thriller. I think it is, like a crime thriller. I think, is it Kelly Preston in here? I was trying to find some other films by, I think, Kelly Preston, so I think she might be in it, or someone of that sort of era. Anyway, 52 Pickup. I haven't seen it yet, like I say, so I won't go on about it. Now this one again, this was an HMV sale when I was on holiday. I just pushed the trigger because I looked at the IMDb and thought this looks alright for $3.99, $2.99, something like that, cheap. The Island of Dr. Moreau? Not sure. Basically, it reminded me of, all I could think of was this South Park character / episode where this like crazy scientist guy is just like smashing genes together to make these weird creatures. So if it's anything remotely like that, I'll be in for that money. I also picked up Supergirl the movie for the same reason. I think this was about £3 or £4 on either Amazon or HMV, one of the two. I feel like I said it a long time ago on DVD again, but I can't remember a thing about it. So for the money, I just picked it up because I can go back to it anytime I like, and it's, you know, cheaper than renting it. This one's another one that, again, I was just on holiday, bored, looking through my phone in the evenings, nothing to do really, and had a look for Pray for Death. So again, don't know much about it. It's an 18. It just ticked a few boxes when I was looking through the images online, so I picked it up. Don't know much about it, but again, for the money, couldn't say no. This one went on an Amazon deal while I was on holiday again. I think £13 it went down to, something like that. So yeah, came with a slip, really happy with that. I'd heard everyone tell me how good the transfer was on this, so I wanted to pick up for myself the Terminator on 4K. Obviously I've seen the movie before, but I just haven't checked out the 4K yet, so that's why it's in my to watch pile. Now I picked up for £3.49 Shazam, the sequel, which is called Fury of the Gods. Not sure. I liked the first one. I've heard this one isn't as good by a long shot, but again, for £3.49, why not? Another one for £3.49 I picked up, which I heard is good, is The Nun 2. Wasn't a massive fan of Nun 1, but you know, Nun 2 for £3.49, can't grumble at that. And again, a nice slip on there. Picked it up. Getting all ready for my summer watching, you know. This one I heard, I think Ollie talk about. I'm sure it was Ollie talk about quite recently, which he may have got wind of from Stuart George, possibly. Not sure how it trickled down the chain, but now it's my turn to pick up War of the Roses. So yep, Danny DeVito in there, like Danny DeVito, Michael Douglas. Yep, so I haven't seen it, like I say, so can't tell you much about it, but I did pick it up. This was one I've been umming and ahhing about for quite a while. Just sounded like quite a fun comedy. Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell in Overboard. Again, I think $3.99, something like that, really cheap on the HMV / Amazon sale, so I picked it up. Now I watched a BFI documentary while I was on holiday on YouTube. Sounds interesting, I'm sure, but to be fair, it was really interesting to me. It was just this guy explaining how they you know, do a little bit of their restorations that they do. I'm not a really big fan of the BFI, like in terms of I don't have many. I've watched a couple which I've enjoyed, but they've been kind of one and done movies. But watching that documentary of the guy, or the speech he did, like a TED Talks type thing, it really sparked my interest and put me in the mood to pick up a few of their titles and explore their stuff a bit more. So this one just happened to be one of the ones I saw first, I think, when I was looking through the sale in HMV online. A movie called Permissive. So yep, again, don't know a lot about it, I'm really sorry, but I haven't got to these yet. As and when I do, if they do spark my interest enough, I will go back to them on a video at a later date and in like a recommendations type video. But yeah, I think it's a 70s movie. BFI DVD and Blu-ray comes in the pack there, but Permissive. So yeah, that is it. That is everything I picked up. I'm really sorry this video has gone on quite a while. Hopefully I'm going to do some editing, so I'm going to mix a few things up on the channel. I've added a little bit more different lighting to the video here today. Hopefully that looks quite good. I've ordered a mic as well, which hopefully will pick up the audio a bit better. Just hasn't turned up yet, so bear with me on that. I'm not going to be putting out more content necessarily because I just simply don't have the time. But I think I might do a bit more editing because it's something I do quite enjoy doing. As I know a lot of people don't enjoy editing, but I've dabbled a couple of times in the past and really enjoyed it. So I just never get the time to record videos. That's my biggest thing. I just don't have this space free where there's not anyone banging on the door or coming in and out like 5-10 times. So it's just that's the only factor why I don't do more content. So I figured I can do content, maybe just still once a month, but once I record this video on a time where everyone's out of the house, I can then spend some evenings just putting together a bit more editing around the videos to make it a little bit more interesting, hopefully, to watch. So that's the plan going forward for the channel. I've had a little bit of a refresh on the logos and the designs. Hope you like those. Yeah, let me know down below in the comments. So as always, guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, guys. Bye.